Shakespeare with the 4.99 for the Grillin Sicilian. Grilling us up to 14%. And grilling the Sicilian up to 5%. Wait, I'm forgetting somebody's dono, aren't I? Okay, so Afroponics, I added yours to Irene Sings. That means I gotta get a 9-volt battery. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, that's the bonus goal. It means that... Oh my gosh, I think I've explained that. I've explained everything, except for... why I don't use more product in my hair. That's one thing I can't explain exactly. Always use product in your hair, chat. Anyway, we gotta get going. We gotta see what this Chappell Roan thing is. I keep on wanting to pronounce her name like wrong, but I'm gonna resist the temptation. All right, so let's see what Hassan's got, and then we'll go from there, because I think this is gonna show us all right, let's bring the music down, press my buttons, see if they actually work today. That one works. And that one works. And let's see about this one. Everything was not working yesterday. Or the day before. Or whenever that was. Wonderful. Okay, well that's something. Okay, I think we're good.
I just woke up, and to like people just skewing it even more, endorsing and voting are completely different. I don't agree with a lot of what is going on with like policies. Like, obviously, fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left.
Oh yeah, so I sort of see where so it's one thing, you know, if you're gonna get pushback from like shit libs, from Dylan Burns fans, right? It's one thing that if you're gonna get pushback from Destiny's fandom, but I can see how the way that she's saying this is it's subject to misinterpretation. Like, my understanding of Chappell's problem with Kamala's policies is that they're not there, like in terms of differentiating herself from Biden on Gaza, right? It's just like And so that's the reason that she's saying it's different. Voting and endorsing are different things. When I say I endorse something, I'm like, hey, check this out. This is really good. You should do this, right? And it's and when that candidate is somebody with Kamala's, policies, which, are better than Trump's, but are lacking, then you kind of don't want to say, especially when you're a musician, not a political pundit. You don't want to be like, I endorsed, right? That's but this right here is going to get taken as like, but some of the Democrats aren't either. Like, it's going to get taken as both sides as it's like, but the Democrats need to do more on the border, right? Which I don't think that's what Chappell is saying. But I could see where, yeah, the lack of specificity, which, is understandable too, because again, not a political pundit.
That's why I can't endorse.
Did she say the left? Fuck the policies on the right. Fuck the problem is that the policies on the left side of the American political discourse, right? The policies on the left are centrist policies, are sometimes kind of right-wing policies, right? So if that's what you're talking about, the policies of the left, or the the left side of the voting ticket, right? Versus like the left, like the left has gone too far. The left is like, because this could, like, I could see somebody taking this as like an Anna Kasparian thing, which I don't think it is. She's addressing libs. They wouldn't understand the difference. True.
Policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left. That's why I can't endorse. That's why I can't, like, put my entire name and my entire project behind one.
Ooh, yeah, that's gonna get taken as both sidesing.
Because there is no way I can.
I think I'm assuming what she's trying to say is that neither of these are good. Why I can't put my whole project behind one because they both suck, right? But it's going to get taken as like, I can't put my whole project behind one. I mean, the Democrats have got some good points, but then the Republicans have got some good points too. And she's literally not saying that. Like, this isn't like, it's just that she's not saying that, or she's not saying not that, right? So I can kind of see where the misunderstanding is coming from. From what I've seen so far, it's a misunderstanding. It's not an issue of Chappell being some kind of like both sides sort of person, or a person that is like, can't we all get along? Can't we compromise? Have like President Trump and Vice President Vance, or I don't think it's like anything cringe like that. But I could see how people take it that way.
Stand behind some of the left.
You think she's concerned about branding?
Completely transphobic and completely genocidal.
Well, you got to understand, with a musician, there's branding, right? Which is like the same as like, the Irene Geller butterfly, right? Branding, like what kind of color is in my overlay, right? There's branding, and then there's art. There's how I say things, right? And when she says something I want to put my project behind, like, maybe I'm just too good faith, but I'm assuming that she means in terms of her artistic project, right? Rather than her brand. But yeah, she didn't say. So my interpretation is not necessarily more valid than yours, Chatter. You could be right as well.
Views.
She meant the mainstream Dems, clearly.
So yeah.
Not the broader left.
Huge problems on both. You know what is right and wrong, and so do I. Fuck Trump for fucking real, but fuck some of the shit that has gone down in the Democratic Party that has failed people like me and you. And
okay, so she's being a little bit more specific here.
More so, Palestine. And more so, every marginalized community in the world. So no, I'm not gonna settle for what the options that are in front of me.
So this is maybe where some people are reading like support for the Green Party or whatever.
And you're not gonna make me feel bad for that. So yeah, I'm voting for fucking Kamala. But I'm not settling for what has been offered because that's questionable. It's questionable that
I don't see the problem with this take. I'm voting for Kamala. Wait, did she say Oh, that's another thing she got shit on for, right? She said...
That's questionable. It's questionable that fucking Kamala. But I'm not settling for...
Yeah. She's got me saying it now. Yeah, she said, okay, so, but like, she's not wrong. I feel like there's a little bit of a tightrope act when it comes to voting. And I never want to make somebody feel like they are being untrue to themselves by submitting to a electoral process that doesn't give you, good options that are practical, that are of the candidates that could actually win, and forces you to, choose the lesser of evils, right? I would never want to come off as saying that strategically using your vote to disallow the worst possibility from coming true is like a bad thing. But at the same time, I never want to give you the feeling that you need to just subsume yourself into the Democratic Party, be an absolute cheerleader. There's like some kind of magical time. All right, when the race starts, no more noticing anything bad about Kamala. No more pushing her. Right? I would never want to come off like that. But yeah, we are like threading a needle here, right? And the other part of the needle that I thread is as far as people who don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils are not going to be bullied into doing so. That's not how that works. If you want to bully somebody, bully the Democrats into being better. If you want that voter that's out there saying, I don't know, I might vote for a third party or yada, yada, yada. If you want that person to vote, right, shitting on them is not going to get you there. I mean, like, we pointed this out, right? Didn't we, with Donald Trump? Thank you, Omega Star, for the cheer. Omega Star says, I would be happy, I would be happier if she still encouraged people to turn out. You don't have to vote for president to still vote the rest of the way down. Well, she talks about that, right? That's one of her, I don't know if it's this video or if it's another video, but she talks about all the other offices that people don't even think of. That was what got her in trouble in the first place, right? So, like, again, my take on this is that I can see how the way that she said this stuff lends itself to an interpretation that could come off as both sides to some people. However, I don't think that's what she's saying. And I don't support, like, vote scolding her into submission. But, I mean, she is voting Kamala. Even if she's not pronouncing Kamala. We're up to 16% on the dono goal. If anybody's got, there's a few people that donated, and I didn't get your vote as far as what you want to see in terms of bonus content. Just know that you can tell me in the chat which of these topics appeals to you, and I'll be more than happy to add your donation as a percentage to the topic of your choice and help that topic win.
What has been offered, because that's questionable. It's questionable that our actions of our government, the actions of the internet, the actions of you and me. If this is what you are not understanding, you know what? Endorsing someone, if someone is publicly endorsing a political figure, that doesn't even mean that they're gonna fucking vote for them. Because as I said in my other video, actions speak louder than words. And I'm not gonna let this narrative of like me not playing both sides. No. This is not me playing both sides. This is me questioning both sides because this is what
is the D'Angelo Wallace video about the voting at all, or is it about other stuff?
we have in front of us.
Technically, she had a smart strategy: vote Kamala secretly while speaking out against what Kamala is doing. God, now I'm mispronouncing it all sorts of ways. While speaking out against what Kamala is doing wrong, but people forced her hand. Yeah.
So if you look at my statement and you're still like, she's just playing both sides, like she doesn't want to. No, you're not getting it. I'm critiquing both sides because they're both so fucked up.
See, the only thing I would add is that, like, the Democrats are failing to heighten the contradictions, right? If your party does not have enough energy, if there's people nominally on your side and you really are in a situation like we are, where either, you know, Kamala's going to win or Trump's going to win, and you're not getting, you don't have everyone, you know, consolidated around Kamala, it's Kamala's job to put out better policies, to talk to those people, to let them know that she's going to be different, way different than Trump, right? Which is obvious to me, but I'm somewhat of a pundit. It sounds weird saying I'm a pundit. I'm a pundit, chat. Deal with it. But it's different for people that aren't, you know, so immersed in politics. Have we done Sam yet? We have not. We're just finishing this here.
Voting is all we have right now in the system. And so I encourage it yet again. Vote for who, in your mind, is the best option for what we have right now. Because it's all we can do. And I hope this makes it clear that no, I'm not picking the sides of what we have right now. Yes, one's obviously better than the other. But Jesus fucking Christ, I hope you don't settle for what we have.
I mean, this is based. The only thing that I don't like is how it began. Like, she's just not communicating effectively. Like, she's leaving because she doesn't want to go into detail. And again, it's a TikTok, you know, there's a limit. I don't know what the time limit is, but this is like a 3-minute video here. So in order to maximize your impact on a TikTok, you're sort of limited as far as time, even though you can make longer videos. If you want them to have that reach, they've got to be somewhat succinct, right? But in that succinctness, she's missing her chance to be specific enough. And look, this is more like something that YouTubers have to worry about, right? When YouTubers make a video, they not only have to describe their perspective on whatever they're commentating on, but they need to anticipate criticism. Like, how might someone read what I'm saying that's not exactly what I'm saying? And how might I head that off at the pass by, you know, what could I say in the video to, like, make sure that that person out there that I basically agree with isn't going to get the idea that we don't agree when we actually do, right? That's more of a YouTuber skill. That's not necessarily...
But now there are freaking communists invading...
It's not necessarily something a musician should be expected to do. So yeah, a lot of this is just her being pulled into this medium of the once every 4 years presidential race, and where she stands on that when she's in a medium of creating music and creating art. And the two are not the same. I do think that her, you know, heart is in the right place here, but I can also see how to some people, especially in that beginning of the video, it comes off as something other than what she intends.
Put your name behind.
And obviously also there's going to be some people that are just mad at her for not you know, doing the endorsement, just like suck it up, do the endorsement, deal with any disagreement with Kamala later. But the thing is, we always say that and we never do that. And when you see streamers that encourage their communities to subsume themselves into the Democratic Party once every 4 years, that's how you end up with shitty anarcho-Bidenists. That's how you end up with Voshites. And, you know, whatever shortcomings you can point out of this video, I would say that Voshites are a lot more worthless in terms as political actors than you could say that Chappell Roan is. All right, so here's the other video.
I have encouraged people to use critical thinking skills, learn about what they're voting for, learn about who they're voting for, and ask questions. And it's being completely taken out of context, per usual. There is nuance to what I say in interviews. And I think it's important that people use critical thinking. I think it's important for me to question authority and question world leaders and question myself, question my algorithm, question if some person that tweeted something about someone else is even true. It's important to question because that's how I think we move forward. This is my third election in voting, and the world is changing so rapidly, and I want to be part of the generation that changes things for good because we need it. If you come to my shows, if you read my full interviews, if you literally know anything about me and for what I stand for, you know that this is not lip service, this is not virtue signaling, that my actions have always paved the way for my project and the people who really know me. Actions speak louder than words, and actions speak louder than an endorsement. Here's the full quote that a lot of people are just not reading. I have so many issues with our government in every way, she says. There are so many things that I would want to change, so I don't feel pressured to endorse someone. There's problems on both sides, and I encourage people.
Yep, I see exactly what people are reacting to.
To use your critical thinking skills. Use your vote. Vote small. Vote for what's going on in your city. The change she wants to see in the U.S. is this election year, she says, instantly is trans rights. They cannot have cis people making decisions for trans people, period. So, hear it from my mouth, if you're still wondering. No, I'm not voting for Trump. And yes, I will always question those in power and those making decisions over other people. And I will stand up for what's right and what I believe in. And like, it's always at the forefront of my project. And I'm sorry that you fell for the clickbait. I have encouraged.
Okay, so I think this was the third video. That was the second video. I'm just wondering if we can find the first video. Yeah, there's a lot of tweeting. Oh wait, is this September 4th? No, that's before. Okay, so it's not going up on. It's not going up on her main. Okay, that's the third one. That's the second one. I'm just seeing, like, it feels like there's one video that we're missing. Yeah, it's not on here, is it? Oh well, we'll see if we can track it down. See what Hassan has to say about this.
policies. Like, obviously, the policies of the right, but also.
And the other reason I'm watching this on Hassan is that he's got an interview that I'm not sure where it is, and so I'm kind of using him to see if we can figure out where that interview is.
Some of the policies on the left. That's why I can't endorse. That's why I can't, like, put my entire name and my entire project behind one. Because there is no way I can stand behind some of the left's completely transphobic and completely genocidal views. So yeah.
She's saying, like, the Democratic Party.
You're worried she's throwing cold water on the momentum to even show up? You know, honestly, I feel like it probably would have been better with somebody, I don't know. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Like, I'm having trouble, like, there's stuff about her response that I feel like is like lacking, but I'm having trouble deciding how I would do it better. Because it's kind of like, if I wasn't in politics, I might think of not mentioning anything. The criticism of that is that, well, then, you know, you've got this platform and you're not using it to encourage your voters to, you know, do something about the potential of Trump getting elected, which, you know, is fair enough of a criticism. So then you weigh in and you say what? I mean, for me, it's like, weaponize your vote against this guy, right? That's how I put it in that specific way for a specific reason. To not have it read as like a full-scale endorsement, to not have it be read as cheerleading, to not have it be read as me saying this administration, this political ticket is good, and whatever they do is the right thing, because that's not true. But at the same time, to encourage people to use the little bit of power they do have in this election to prevent what could be a very dark path for humanity to take, right? It's as simple as that for me. But for other people, finding those words might be more difficult. And I do get the sense that she's having trouble finding the exact words that she needs to use here. Oh my gosh, chat, I didn't even see. Here, let's switch this over to that.
There are huge problems on both. You know what is right and wrong, and so do I. F Trump, for fucking real, but f some of the shit that has gone down in the Democratic Party that has failed people like me and you. And more so, Palestine. And more so, every marginalized community in the world. So no, I'm not gonna settle for what the options that are in front of me. And you're not gonna make me feel bad for that. So yeah, I'm voting for fucking Kamala. But I'm not settling for what has been offered, because that's questionable. It's questionable.
Did I add your bits for dim tool? Not yet. Let me put those in there. Thank you. And chat, just know that if you donate, you can let me know in the chat which of the poll options you want to see as our bonus content. We have Tim Pool doesn't know skateboarding, What If Alt Hist lies to you, Vanguard, John Alderola versus Anna Kasparian, and the Comrade Kamala allegations. Is Kamala a communist? Some person thinks so, and that's an option, right? So just make sure that if you donate $5 or more, it'll actually do a TTS, and I'll stop and answer that. If it's less, I'll read those donos out after the segment, at the segment end. Same thing goes for gifting memberships or getting a membership yourself. But yeah, all of that stuff, anything that is a donation of any kind, it counts towards the dono goal. So make sure to let me know in the chat. It'll push the dono goal forward, and it'll also allow you to put your money where your mouth is and add your donation as a percentage to the topic of your choice.
That our actions of our government, the actions of the internet, the actions of you and me. If this is what you are not understanding, you know what? endorsing someone, if someone is publicly endorsing a political figure, that doesn't even mean that they're gonna vote for them.
You need to interview her, please. I tried. I don't think it'll happen, but it's all good. But what's really funny about this take? What's really funny about this take is that like Chappell Roan is demonstrating one, I think, like sound judgment on the matter. It's ironic because it's something that I experience on a daily basis by annoying people.
Did he just skip the part that actually does make it sound like she might be both sidesing though? Because like I don't think I have the exact same take. Like I do agree with what I think she's trying to say here. There is some issue in the way that she communicated it. There are some things that she said that are just, you know, bound to be taken the wrong way.
And I think that a lot of the criticism is just like liberals who are Zionists themselves, who try to couch their criticism towards her with like lesser evil voting and like aesthetic posturing. But the real reasons why they're upset is because, you know, they can't say that they hate that she is pro-Palestine. That's, I think, what it is for a lot. I'm sure there's like plenty of liberals who are automatically like blue no matter who people. Like there are plenty of people who are blue no matter who people who maybe even are pro-Palestinian to a degree, right? But they're still team players, and they've been conditioned into churning out this like, why the won't you say you're going to vote for Kamala Harris and like swing loudly and proud?
Real Jogano says, I wish she was, but Kamala is a cop.
For her, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. The contrast between how right wingers are trying to portray Kamala Harris and the actual, you know, kind of shortcomings of who she is as a candidate here and now. The ease with which she was forced to disavow some of the, you know, good things that she said in the 2020 election. Yeah, it's ironic. It's ironic of all the candidates to be throwing that, like, you know, she's like a revolutionary. She's like basically, we got people calling Kamala a Maoist or something. I don't know. It's wild.
Okay,
that's just not who she is.
But beyond that, a big part of it is definitely from a lot of yeah. This is I agree with this. I'd like to take this opportunity to point out that a lot of people leading the hate against
It's an NVC interview, says Rule Jogano. Yeah, she's a singer, not a political commentator. Yeah.
Are Zionists. The reason they're attacking her is because she used her platform to speak up about Palestine. This is a very dangerous targeted hate campaign.
Well, she's going to be getting it from those people. She's going to be getting it from like shitlibs, and possibly from people that think that she's saying that, you know, people that think that she's making some kind of centrist takes, right? The way that she's put this, like she's gonna take fire from all sides. So it's almost like, you know, if this is how you're gonna bring forward, it almost would have been better for her just not say anything. But I get the issue with that is that then it looks like you don't care, or it looks like you're trying to maintain, like some people have suggested, the brand that is friendly to either that you're trying to do the Moist Critical thing, where this is something that Moist Critical has been accused of, only having the most normie takes possible, rather than saying anything that's gonna turn off people in his audience on the right or on the left. Let's be like the MAGAs, 30 days and not a question of our really? That's like, you're unironically saying that? You're unironically saying that, NSE?
I didn't even get
I don't think even Vosh says that.
To the other side of the conversation. The first point I'm making is that a lot of people are couching their like classic harm reduction esque takes about the Democratic Party when in fact they're just mad that she's saying that that she's uncomfortable endorsing a candidate when she's like voluntarily participating in the genocide of Palestinians, which is a perfectly reasonable and normal take to have. Okay, the second sentiment that I would like to express here is that she is basically repeating something that like the overwhelming majority of under 30-year-olds feel. Sure, they might not be fucking Twitter chirpers with like a decent amount of followers on Twitter, invested in the outcome of the Democratic Party because they fancy themselves to be Democratic Party mouthpieces or operatives. But if you've ever fucking interacted with someone under the age of 30, you know that this is precisely how they also feel. And this is not the first election, nor it will be the last election where the underage, the under 30 demographic feels this way about the party, when the party does not even communicate or choose to communicate anything that is like functionally helpful for the under 30 demographic of voters. It's not like the Democratic Party has presented a solution to the problems that they perceive, the problems that they're experiencing. This attitude is actually quite commonplace. So I don't even know how. I don't really fully understand how people are fucking yelling at her over this at all.
Because as I said in my other video, actions speak louder than words. And I'm not gonna let this narrative of like me not playing both sides. No. This is not me playing both sides. This is me questioning both sides because this is what we have in front of us. So if you look at my statement and you're still like, she's just playing both sides, like she doesn't want to, no, you're not getting it.
I don't know. Isn't like 80% of the Democrat position good for young people, to be fair? No. What the fuck are you talking about? Just stop asking this question and start telling me what you think is like good for young people, okay?
I'm critiquing both sides because they're both so fucked up. Voting is all we have right now in the system. And so I encourage it, yet again, vote for who in your mind is the best option for what we have right now.
Chat, my concern is that some people that come to this with like a perspective that it's too dangerous to say anything that's not overwhelmingly positive about the ticket, like in what, a 30-day space? We're actually 40 days out, right? Or you know, whatever your, you know, threshold is that what you're doing is you're trauma bonding with the Democratic Party every 4 years. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's look, I'm like, we've had several nuanced discussions about Stockholm syndrome and kind of like the origins, the problematic origins of that term. But yeah, it's like a Stockholm syndrome. Like I that's what I want to avoid. That's more than anything, right? Because there's an issue with somebody that has like a puritanical view that not voting or not voting for, you know, something as shitty as the Democratic Party makes you like, you know, somehow like that there's a purity that you're ruining otherwise, right? I think that's that's a very maladaptive way of looking at things, right? But I also think it's maladaptive to look at it like that we've got to present a false positivity towards a ticket, towards a campaign that is far from what it needs to be. And I would say, chat, here's the problem. It's far from what it needs to be ideologically. It's far from what it needs to be policy-wise, but it's also far from what it needs to be pragmatically. The Democrats, if you want to see them win, need to be encouraged to stop being fucking cowards. Stop throwing trans people under the bus. Stop throwing immigrants under the bus. Right? This is the worst shit that you could possibly do. Expect people to support that side out of a lesser of two evils rationale and not do anything to decrease the lesser evil, which you do have the power to do. And yeah, like withholding an endorsement is something that, like, for most of us, like, we can't, like, you know, you can't call up the Harris campaign and be like, yo, I'm sorry, Kamala and Tim, I'm withholding my endorsement. I don't like your, I haven't heard enough to convince me that you're going to do something about the ethnic cleansing that's going on in Gaza. I haven't heard you say this, or I haven't heard you say that. Most of us can't do that, right? This is an endorsement that obviously people care about. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be any kind of big deal. So yeah, leveraging that, especially considering that her opinion, her perspective does seem to be that she is on board with, with weaponizing her vote against Donald Trump. She's on board with using her vote in the presidential election. It seems pretty based. I don't know. But what I do know is that in 5 minutes, there's another ad break on Twitch. And that's an ad break. That's a sad break. If you don't have a sub, that means you have to watch 3 minutes of an ad and lose 3 minutes from your life. And it actually seems like more than 3 minutes. I don't know. Those ads, like, it's too long for an ad. They're unskippable, right? With the exception that you could possibly skip it with a Prime sub for free. You could skip it by getting yourself a sub, which I think they're on a discount. Check now. I think as long as you're on desktop, they're at a discount for this month only. Or by being gifted a sub, which can happen and does happen, but it's more likely to happen to you if you're active in the chat.
Because it's all we can do. And I hope this makes it clear that no, I'm not picking the sides of what we...
No, they don't care. They don't care. They do not care. They're gonna fucking literally keep relentlessly yelling at you and saying a vote for not Kamala is a vote for Trump.
We have right now. Yes, one's obviously better than the other. But Jesus fucking Christ, I hope you don't settle for what we have and put your name behind someone that you don't fully trust. Because
see, this is where people getting confused, right? Because for her, it's about putting her name behind something. For her, it's like they're asking for an endorsement. For most people, you're being asked, to get out and vote. And that's not putting your name, that's not the same thing. But people will interpret what she just said as saying that she's throwing cold water on the idea of getting out and voting, which I don't think is her intention.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense, dude. Like, endorsement is different than like going out and voting for someone anyway. But beyond that, like, if you want someone's vote or their endorsement, you have to fucking earn it. This is the basis of democracy, okay? That is what the democratic process is supposed to be about. How ridiculous that the Democratic Party has completely lost this attitude. Like, they've just like, and I'm not even talking about the party, actually. I'm talking about the fucking voters, like the ride or diers for the Dems. They act like that is a utterly incomprehensible position. They act like you are against the very notion of democracy if you don't immediately subscribe to one party over the other. This does not mean the other party is good. The reality of the matter is, if a vote not for Kamala Harris is a vote for Trump, a vote not for Trump is a vote for Kamala Harris. There you go. If someone tells you that, oh, you don't want to vote for Kamala Harris, well, you're voting for Trump then. And it's like, no, I'm not voting for Trump. Then I guess I'm voting for Kamala Harris. Shut the fuck up. Meanwhile, changes occur regardless, and it is completely outside of our control. Come on, man. That's a misleading view of how voting with only two options is. Wait, what do you mean? I'm just saying the exact same thing. Okay, I'm not voting for Trump. Okay, then a vote for not Trump is a vote for Kamala Harris. I don't think it's a misleading view of how voting for only two options is. I think it's fair to say I may have a lower bar than other voters, but that doesn't entitle me to criticize them for having a higher bar. That's the nature of a democracy. I can cast a note while acknowledging that it is a different issue from getting millions of others to cast votes too. A lot of libs project their own preferences on the people, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, Sassy Sassari was pointing out, she said she's going to vote for Kamala too. Yeah, she was kind of pushed to say it, but yeah, she did say that.
Realistic. Yeah, it's also not how this process works demonstrably, which is precisely the reason why Hillary Clinton lost. Your reading is getting really good. Thank you.
They're blatant actions.
This is a very clear attempt to not lose her right-wing fan base. What? You have to be schizophrenic if you think that she has, one, a right-wing fan base, and two, is...
Miskatonic says, this is the first time I've been willing to go so far as to vote Democratic for president to ensure Trump loses. I've grown from a young Alex P. Keaton. She's going to vote Harris, but Harris hasn't earned her endorsement. That's the whole thing. And that's what people are missing, is that it's incumbent upon, the Democratic candidate to earn your vote. That doesn't mean that you gotta, you can still, consider like voting, against Trump or, voting as a harm reduction, but if she wants to get more of those people that are on the fence, not on the fence, but some of them that are on the fence, right? The thing is, the Democratic Party is and has and continues to be its own worst enemy. They misread the room every single time. They're afraid of their own shadow. In contrast to the Republican Party, in contrast to this like corporate corruption gone wild, the Democratic Party did have something appealing to offer to the American worker. And they summarily jettisoned that in the early 80s. And they have not revisited it. And at this point, you've got a situation in which there is a difference. There is a definite, there is a benefit for, having a Democrat in the White House versus a Republican most if not all the time. But it's too ephemeral for some people to understand. And those people are more likely to become Trump voters in that situation. When they see it as just a team sports thing, when they see it as like, when they can't see the difference, when they can't see who the Democratic Party actually stands for and that it's them, then you're going to get this drop off, right? From a voter that should have been and was pretty easy for the Democrats to get. And that's all on them as far as getting that vote. And that's all on them as far as getting the votes of people that, whose stomachs that they've turned through their Gaza policy.
Desperately trying to maintain her right-wing fan base by being like, I have issues with the Democratic Party. I hate Donald Trump. I have issues with the Democratic Party. It is akin to saying, I am trying to desperately, because what she said is not all that different from what I say. Obviously, I have more information backing the things that I'm saying. But like beyond that, but why not say Kamala? She says she has a preference, obviously, because she explained it well. I don't think she wants to endorse Kamala Harris and considers it to be fucked up. Dude, you ascribed a cynical reason as to why she came out and said this. And it's kind of funny that you did that. It's kind of funny that you did that because she says she doesn't want to endorse Kamala Harris. Okay? Because there are still a lot of things that she does that, or she has done, that is that is not in line with what she believes. But why not support her fan base by endorsing someone who clearly supports policy that would help them? Because she's not. Because she isn't. She isn't supporting policy that would help them. What are you saying? You're just imagining. If some of the policies you want are, hey, I'm anti-genocide, and Kamala Harris is like, well, I'm pro-genocide, sorry, then that's directly at odds with what you're talking about. You're just wishing that maybe there are some policies out there. She made another TikTok where she says she's fucking voting for Kamala. Yeah, the libs bullied her into assuming the position. The libs bullied her into submission. Next up, they will yell at her for not being enthusiastic enough. Anyway, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in this way. Also, yeah.
Yeah, sadly, I'm seeing some of that already.
Literally. Name one policy of Kamala Harris that is pro-LGBTQ without mentioning what Donald Trump is going to do. Name one policy of Kamala Harris that you think is good that isn't directly at odds, that isn't like what she will magically do against Donald Trump. This is the 2016 trap that Hillary Clinton landed on as well. Small business tax credits, moving the goalposts a bit, are we? Wait, what?
Anyway, let's switch over and do a little Trump tent while we're here. Now, this is a video that I saw popping up on my timeline. There's actually two political videos by this content creator. And I didn't realize that I know of them already. I have seen this content creator already, but if you scroll down here, you'll see that what I've seen of them is actually Steven Universe videos. Like the first one being Lily Orchard was wrong, and here's why. If you don't know, this is a cartoon from the 2010s that was really popular, especially with the LGBT audience. People have had various takes on it, various thoughts on it, problems with its plot and how the allegorical message in that plot, whether it's maybe not staunchly anti-colonial enough. It talks about those kind of themes through its plot, right? So Lily Orchard being maybe the premier critic of Steven Universe. And then this content creator hiding in private, who's not super large, but got massive amounts of views, disagreeing with Lily Orchard's take on Steven Universe. And that's who this is. They do Persona stuff. Ooh, some more Shin Megami Tensei adjacent stuff. Yeah, it looks like, wow, they were a Persona channel. Then they became a Steven Universe channel. They've even got a Pikmin video. But now they're doing politics. Let's see what they have to say about Trump's economy.
Inflation hit in 2021. I'm going to go through some key talking points of the 2024 Republican GOP platform for Donald Trump, and fact check as I go with a variety of sources and statistics directly from the corresponding places of government, fact-checking organizations, etc. And I will specify on the screen and in the description with specific sources so you can read more about it yourself or see it for yourself. Let's start. 2024 GOP platform.
You knew Irene was a Steven Universe fan? Look, my thoughts on the show are complicated.
Make America great again. America first. A return to common sense. Past the
My feelings.
the first claims are simple. Donald J. Trump was elected as an unapologetic champion of the American people.
God damn, I actually want to chat. Should we talk about the Chappell Roan thing after this set of segments? I kind of wanted to stop and just talk to chat for a while about it, because I can see that a lot of people have strong feelings about the Chappell Roan situation. But the way that I've got it set up now, we gotta jump from one thing to another. I'll see if we have some time to.
Reignited the American spirit and called on us to renew our national pride. His policies spurred historic economic growth, job creation, and a resurgence in American manufacturing. Unfortunately, as far as policy goes, after researching, none of that seems to be accurate. As far as GDP growth and GDP per capita, the GDP increase year over year was 2.24% in his first year, 2.95% in his second year, 2.29%, and finally, negative 2.77%, with exception to his final year in office. So let's take a look at this whole graph here, right? We go back to 1990, see a recession. Was this the recession of the 90s? So there's only a few times that this growth is negative. One is the financial crisis of 2008, and the other is COVID. But yeah, right here's 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So, yeah, like these 3 years are Trump years. These years are Obama years. Wait, way back to. Oh, Obama started here. Okay, there we go. Considering COVID in his final year, the economic growth stayed virtually the same as Obama's economy from the 2010 recovery to the 2008 housing crisis in these metrics, until the beginning of Trump's term. In fact, if you were to look at the graph without seeing the years, you would probably have a difficult time telling when Obama ended and when Trump began.
Trump's right here. But I only know that because I just looked at it. Yeah, I see the point, right? It's a pretty average growth rate all through.
A reminder, though, of two things, and this is something that'll be important as I talk about specific dates in the future. Trump began his term on January 20th, 2017, when he was sworn into office, and it ends in January 20th of 2021, when Biden was sworn into office. This will be important to address the future claims, especially as we compare them to the Biden presidency, as the GOP platform specifically does. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics also lists job loss growth and total trends per quarter each year. For quarters, I will count June as the starting point for presidencies, since it's hard to blame.
How wild is it, chat, that this is like a video game and cartoon like commentary channel, and they're like using that kind of methodology to look at politics here in a pretty in-depth way.
A first quarter job economy on someone who wasn't in for a full first quarter.
This is a very data-driven video so far.
So that's being equally fair both to Trump, Biden, and anybody else who would run in the future. June 2017 to March of 2021, job creation either stayed roughly the same or was lower than job creation under Barack Obama. This is until COVID hits in 2020, to which we see a initial 836,000 job loss in the March quarter, followed by a 14,538,000 job loss in the second quarter, and then recovering to a positive 4 million job gain and a 2 million job recovery in the last two quarters. Now, I'm not going to blame Trump for the unprecedented worldwide pandemic situation. There was liable to be some type of large hit to every economy in the world, under any presidency. But I at least think it's worth noting that this type...
Yeah, it's a frustration for me because on one level, I do think that Trump is to blame for the severity of the crisis and for the repercussions. But I can't, there's no way to objectify that, right? There's no way to say, like, this is what it would have looked like without Trump, this is what it looked like with Trump, right? We just don't have a counterexample. And so because of that, I kind of like got to leave that arrow in my quiver. But I do think that more should be made out of Trump's failure to deal with COVID.
Of catastrophic loss, undoing the net job creation of his entire presidency and putting it in the red, as well as undoing the last 2 years of job creation under Obama.
Billy Randall says macroeconomic cycles are one thing I don't judge presidents on. Maybe if we got a president who actually implemented MMT, there could have a direct effect, but otherwise it's beyond their powers. Also, a lot of these things are lagging indicators, right? The economy that a president starts with has more to do maybe with the previous president than it does with their policies. And specifically with a president like Trump, who the only thing he ever implemented were tax cuts and didn't see any sort of market improvement from the Obama economy. I mean, how long is it going to take us to learn that trickle-down economics, supply-side economics don't work? The media's still playing that game, so it's kind of, you know, how do you expect people to know that that's wrong?
It's worth mentioning, too, that in September 2017's quarter, the net jobs were negative, losing 39,000 jobs. The first time for this to happen in a quarter since the 2008 housing crisis in Obama's first term. So before COVID, he was basically the same as...
Yeah, Trump funded Operation Warp Speed. It's strange, though, how he doesn't want to take credit for that. It's strange, though, how you never see him say anything about that. I wonder why that would be.
Obama with a few weak quarters.
But as much as you are trying to give Trump credit for something that's just the bare minimum, he's also got to get credit for cutting the CDC. All right? But he doesn't. Nobody ever talks about this stuff. This is just like, this is the part of this is the dark, you're on the dark side of the moon here with this discourse.
And once COVID hit, it was a massive spike, making it so that the peak unemployment at the end of Trump's term was over 8%, 8.09. That is to say, from a purely objective standard, there was not historic economic growth or job creation, at least in any sort of broad way that people would generally interpret it. Maybe some small job sector had a historic boost, but the broad trend of the economy was anything but historic, aside from the decades-low negative job creation and unemployment caused amidst the COVID crisis. It's also an unbefitting characterization to say that American manufacturing had a resurgence. From the start of...
Okay, now here's something that really needs to get driven home, right? This manufacturing lie. Because it's one of the things that Trump will say, it's part of his narrative, and it's just not true.
Trump's presidency, manufacturing jobs bounced between 2 and negative 2%, and as of February 2019, it only remained in the negative until Biden took office. Meaning for a full year before COVID hit, manufacturing was down every month between -1 and -3%. Once COVID did hit, the worst month, April 2020, saw manufacturing hit a record low of -19.
So do you get that? Manufacturing went down under Trump before COVID.
5%, a number not seen since the 1940s. Even through the height of the 2008 financial crisis, it came close,
Or else Ellipsis says, but supply side, Jesus told me it was true.
at a negative 18% in its worst month of 2009. So, okay, ignoring COVID, Trump was a slightly below average president on jobs and the economy. An objective downturn from Obama, but mostly the same, at least by these specific metrics, which I think are the most obviously representative of America's economy as a whole. These are the successes that the Republican Party and GOP were touting as their opening success for their 2024 platform statement. The next claim of the GOP platform statement is this: yet after 4 years of the Biden administration, America is now rocked by raging inflation, open borders, rampant crime, attacks on our children, and global conflict, chaos, and instability. So, as for what is specifically mentioned, let's say the clear ones here are high inflation, immigration, and high crime rates. The most valid of these is high inflation, although it's a selective argument. The 2 years leading into Biden's term, as I've shown, there was a consistent job loss for over 2 years, manufacturer closures, and heightened unemployment rates, to the extent not seen since 2009 and in some cases not seen since the late 1940s. Inheriting an economic downfall of this caliber and not seeing inflation hit back is pretty unreasonable, especially as the economic downturn and height of inflation hit in 2021. By 2022, the unemployment rate had already been halved of what it was when Trump left office, and by 2023 had dropped back down to 3%, meaning that the current inflation rate has already stabilized and is only 1% higher than Trump pre-COVID. Looking at such a steep and obviously historic recovery, just looking at the graphs, the recovery is hard to blame negatively. COVID was a sort of worldwide economic force. It was neither something I would completely reasonably blame on Trump or Biden. But that's largely the thing. Even if I have some issues with how Trump handled it, the whole world suffered from the pandemic, and if I'm not going to blame Trump for the huge downfall in his last year as president, it doesn't seem to make any sense or be fair to blame Biden for the inflation that was a direct result of that exact same aforementioned downfall. Especially with how quickly the inflation rate restabilized back down to where it was pre-COVID. One couldn't honestly say that inflation is currently raging, as this increase over pre-COVID Trump policy is the same increase as Trump over Obama, and there wasn't an economic crisis to recover from in 2017. As a sort of last note on the economy, Trump's final numbers, as they were when he left office, came to corporate profits increasing by 17.4%, but household income only going up by 6%, meaning workers were getting paid less for their work compared to their employers as the term went on. Home prices also increased by 27.5% under Trump's presidency, and again, we lost a net 178,000 manufacturing jobs. One of the main things that Trump promised before his term and has continued to pretend and claim was a success during this election cycle, despite being provably and undisputably false. I'll do crime next, since it won't take as long as the immigration thing. The Brennan Center for Justice and the CCJ, or Council on Criminal Justice, show a general increase from the beginning of the pandemic that peaks in 2021, followed by a steady downfall afterwards, with exception to a slight but noticeable increase in property crimes in 2022. Of course, we don't have a lot of definitive data for 2023, and this year, 2024, since it's not over, doesn't have its proper statistics out either. I mean, this year's only half over. But based on the change from 2020 to 2022, looking at the data from the major United States cities, the national murder rate was down by 6.7%, property crime down by 0.5% nationally. And generally speaking, looking at Trump and Biden next to each other, very similarly to the pre-COVID Trump era to Obama before him, you can't easily tell where Trump ends and Biden begins, as this trend has been a pretty flat line with steady decline since 2011 and a much more drastic decline since the 90s. In fact, violent crime is at the second lowest point it's ever been, aside from pre-COVID 2019. So, let's get into arguably the biggest talking point of the Trump administration, the crisis on our southern border, or illegal immigration. I'm sure that you've all heard prominent figures in the GOP broadly talk on this as well. Here are some possibly familiar quotes. Nikki Haley claims that 8 million have come in illegally, and that we have to send them back. a number also repeated by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas said on Fox News Sunday that Biden had allowed an invasion to occur on our border. Almost 10 million migrants have crossed into our country. On CNN's State of the Union, Marco Rubio stated more conservatively that 3.3 million people have been released into the country who arrive here illegally, also claiming Biden had a policy of releasing virtually 85 to 90% of any migrant that crossed the border. The DHS has, of course, released its statistics as from the Office of Homeland Security. The first thing factcheck.org notes about this specific claim is that the data often cited lists all apprehensions, which means many are counted more than once, with a 27% recidivism rate, up 7% from 2019. But since the federal health emergency for COVID-19 has ended, the rate has then dropped 11%. A large section of the people counted at the border also are largely in stasis, considering that they have neither been accepted or rejected and are instead being held at the border and awaiting trial, waiting to either be rejected or approved. So it's hard to say they've really crossed into the country if they aren't even in the country but are waiting to see if they'll be allowed in. From the month that Biden took office until October of 2023, 6.5 million encounters were made at the border, 700,000 arriving legally but without initial authorization to enter, so 5.8 million illegal people crossing the border. Subtract the 27% of repeats. Of those numbers, 2.5 million have been released into the country, but again, a chunk of that is made up of legal immigration, but initially unauthorized entries from the 700,000 included in the initial stat. A spokesperson for the DHS also says that they believe their capture rate is 78%, which does seem to be low. But, to quote, under the administration, the estimated annual apprehension rate has averaged 78%, identical to the rate of the prior administration. The people at the border doing their jobs is largely the exact same group of people who were working under the Trump administration, because these are not simply appointed jobs from the president, but are largely administrative jobs. From both administrations, few policies have actually changed aside from the effects of lifting the COVID health emergency guidelines. That means that since Biden has taken office, the rate to which immigrants are caught and refused or let in is not significantly different than it was under Trump. However, due to the COVID crisis, the raw amount of people who are trying to cross the border has increased. So there is a slight increase in people, just not in the actual percent or change of policy. The numbers Haley and DeSantis give, then, are the totals of all migrant encounters, including repeat customers, so to say, as well as hypothetical people who got in without being caught, and in the case of Tom Cotton's exaggeration, also including immigrants from Canada, coastal borders, and all American airports. This seems very blatantly dishonest, so the people at factcheck.org reached out to Cotton's press secretary, Patrick McCann, for comment. And in response, he told them that the figures show that the senator was correct to say that the number had, quote-unquote, crossed into the country. This seems to be doubling down on extremely tight legal speak. It's essentially the Bill Clinton, it depends what the definition of is statement. So after being confronted with the fact that 27% of this number are people that are counted multiple times, as well as including 2.5 million near immediate expulsions from the country, not including all those still awaiting trial as well, many of which to be turned away, there is no frame of reference from which someone could call Tom Cotton of Arkansas's remarks honest. But it also shows bad faith as he voted against the border bills proposed during the current administration as well. A bipartisan bill brokered over 4 months between the Republicans and Democrats, Trump weighed in and told Republicans to vote no because if the border wasn't that much of an issue, it could harm his re-election chances. Senator James Lankford, Republican from Oklahoma, stated on Fox News, said about the situation,
"They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats."
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways. After President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election, it's the single biggest issue during the election, don't resolve this, we'll resolve it next year. quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away. I get that. That's a decision everybody makes in it. My issue is if we're pursuing everything, we very often end up with nothing. If we're pursuing someone coming later to fix it, later seems to never come. When we have a moment to fix things, we should fix as many things as we can then come back later and fix the rest.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
That, again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this.
Sorry about that. That took longer than I thought it would be, but hey, I got tea. I gotta wait for it to steep, though.
Republican Senator Lankford also stated an unnamed popular commentator told him flat out, if you try to move this bill that solved the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you before the next presidential election. While we should acknowledge this second comment as hearsay, this clearly portrays one of, if not two things. One, that the Republicans who voted against this, like Tom Cotton, know that the border crisis is an exaggerated issue for politics. Or two, they sincerely believe there is a crisis, but would sacrifice the safety of the American people if it meant getting Trump elected once again. Personally, based on the data I've shown and also have cited below, I think it's number one. But if someone is sincerely concerned about the southern border, the second option seems much more sinister and like a betrayal to the people who voted for these elected figures. The GOP party platform then goes through a series of paragraphs stating what common sense tells us. It says, common sense tells us...
Did everyone forget about COVID, says a megastar? It feels like it, doesn't it? It feels like we just don't talk about it. And both in terms of... Like, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, look, there's a lot of trauma in that time period for me as well.
Blank, and then it fills it in with one of these before-mentioned stated issues, explaining why they find these issues important, but not really stating how they would fix them, different from prior. But as I've outlined, the actions of the GOP don't reflect the results of this stated priority. The first new addition to these common sense things, though, is common sense tells us clearly that if we don't have a strong military, we won't be able to defend our interests, and we will be at the mercy of hostile nations. The policy of the Republican Party must be to ensure, then, that America's military is the strongest and best equipped in the world. Looking into the statistics again, Biden has maintained the same year-over-year increase in military spending that Trump started, even upping the rate from 2021 to 2022. Regardless, the American military is the best military in the world, to an almost comically exorbitant degree. The United States in 2022 spent $876.94 billion on military expenses, the most out of any country in the entire world, and by a long shot, too. The second place, Saudi Arabia, spent a mere $75.01 billion on the same year, meaning that the United States spends over 8 times more than the next highest spending military and more than the next 40-plus countries beneath us. And that's just because I got sick of adding numbers of less than 1 billion to try and reach the United States numbers. I stopped at like...
A recent COVID study showed it caused cognitive decline that's equivalent to 20 years of natural decline in some cases. Damn.
650 billion. Our military is easily the most bloated part of the American budget, especially since this number doesn't even include resources used to help our veterans. Over Obama's 2 terms, spending towards veterans increased by $100 billion.
Again, chat, apologies for the extra long break. I had to wait for the bathroom.
Under Trump's
the thing that happens when you have roommates.
One term, it increased by $34 billion. Under Biden's term, as of 2023, it increased $48 billion, meaning that per term, Biden has already outpaced increased aid to veterans that Trump offered by 25%, and is on track to overpace Obama as well. This is yet to include the last year of his term. So it might lead one to wonder, what type of additional budget is going to be sent to non-veteran military expenses that we aren't already far exceeding? Trump has proposed a plan to build a nationwide Iron Dome defense system that will protect all American skies, the same as Israel has, although much larger due to the obvious difference in nation size. The estimated cost of this has been stated to be $2.5 trillion. But where is this?
Oh my god. Oh my God. Okay. So Trump's got, we're like seeing almost like, we're almost seeing into the man's psychology here. Think about it, right? Trump doesn't like immigrants. He can't stand the idea of somebody getting into the country that's not, you know, that's not got their papers in order, right? And then this Iron Dome thing. I mean, like, you know what this is? Like, this is a plan that Ronald Reagan had back in the 80s. An idea that the United States would have a satellite, laser system to defend itself from intercontinental ballistic missiles. Right? Now, yeah, is nuclear war a horrible, scary thing? Oh my God, absolutely. And is it, more possible than anyone realizes? Absolutely, right? But the idea that you're going to hermetically seal your country in with an Iron Dome, and because you've seen this thing like marginally work for a country like Israel, that it could work for the United States in terms of defeating any nuclear counter threat, that's just wild.
Where's money going to come from? Trump left office his first term, raising the national deficit $8.2 trillion, more than any single term of a president prior, and almost as much as Obama during both of his terms combined, Obama having a little over $9 trillion.
Like, the idea of Iron Doming the United States is just like, here's the thing, right? You could build an immense defensive capability that would probably still be insufficient for every single nuclear scenario. And that would then be counteracted by every other major world power. But you could do so much more with those resources in foreign policy to make sure that nothing like that ever happens. Like, in other words, your efforts, your energy is better spent in other places than this idea that you could somehow make a fail-safe system to keep the United States from feeling any blowback, frankly, from its foreign policy, right? It's just a priorities in the wrong place.
Spending increase.
Reagan hired sci-fi writers to invent BS about a strategic. Well, that's what I mean. Is that, like, I think that what Trump wants to do is based on what woke CIA agent is talking about there. It was never meant to be real, just to fuck with the USSR, so they believed that the USA could conduct first strike with no ramifications. Makes sense. But Trump heard about that. That got in his head. Remember, Trump is not a child of the 80s. Trump is a adult of the 80s. I don't know what you want to call it, right? But he his heyday was in the 1980s. And he somehow got this in his brain that this should be a real thing, it sounds like.
The immigration policy was virtually the same. Record profits were made for corporations, but working families saw less than a quarter of the same payout increase in their paychecks. Crime was worse. Jobs were lost. Even before COVID historically devastated the economy.
I mean, but think about this compared to in the context of Trump's germophobia, right? That's one thing that both sides agree on, that Trump is a germaphobe. It's been known for years that he's very afraid of getting germs. And you'll sort of understand where his psychology is at. And it's not a good place. It's not a healthy place, right? Like, he's got something going on that manifests in his bad policy for immigration. Solution, build a wall, right? Bad policy for foreign relations. Solution, build an Iron Dome, right? He has this complex where he thinks that you should just be able to kind of turtle up. Oh yeah, also with trade, right? With trade, with his whole penchant for tariffs, right? Everything about him is like trying to close itself off from the world, and that's just not a healthy place to be.
Manufacturing was down, and as a result of this historic downturn, inflation was a natural result of the catastrophic blow to the economy. But this has already returned to near normal in historically record-breaking decreases. You can see it for yourself on basically any graph you look at, looking at the American economy. I want to say something positive.
Shakespeare says Nasrallah survived. We weren't sure about that.
Just so I can feel more fair.
That was in doubt earlier today.
TM. But the fact is, I already am. These are the things that the GOP platform specifically signaled that it wants to fix in the economy. And these are...
Well, it's like this, right? If your game is to try to get us back to a place where the United States has a nuclear threat, but no one can deter the United States, right? Which is what this Star Wars / Iron Dome idea seems to be about. The other side is just going to work around it. Like somebody mentioned, there were bombs that were meant to set off tsunamis. But I mean, there's a million other things too, right? And also like the idea, like if you really think about what they're proposing, a system that can, with like 100% accuracy, like take down any, missile, any ballistic missile like coming our way. It's just like, it's going to be more easy to overwhelm that system than it is to perfect that system, if that makes sense, right? Although it just incentivizes your opponents to build more missiles and to increase their capabilities. It's a game of cat and mouse that's never going to end. That's not a solution. That's not a policy. That is escapism, is what that is. That is science fiction, actually, in a
the things that all were objectively done worse under Trump when they were last given the reins. And it would be different if they were humble and tried to explain what they will do differently, but most people don't even realize the reality that the stats show because Trump just goes on pretending everything was great. He inherited an economy with less than a 1% inflation rate, and it immediately boosted to over 2%, creating less jobs on average and even a net loss jobs one quarter, including 2 years of net loss in manufacturing jobs, and that's before a refusal to help the American people in COVID. Many people attribute the stimulus that was granted to Americans under Trump. I personally thought that that's when it happened as well. But the American Rescue Act was a bill passed under Joe Biden, signed into law by Biden.
Now, this one actually surprised me. Is this right, chat?
Including 2 years of net loss in manufacturing jobs, and that's before a refusal to help the American people in COVID. Many people attribute the stimulus that was granted to Americans under Trump.
Have I been granting Trump credit for the stimulus this whole time, and I was completely wrong? Listen, I gotta say, it feels like my memory from that time is fucked. It feels like my memory is really fucked. I mean, I guess this wouldn't be the only thing, but god damn. God damn. Like, Trump didn't do the stimmy? I've just been assuming that that was under Trump?
Personally thought that that's when it happened as well. But the American Rescue Act was a bill passed under Joe Biden, signed into law by Biden's hand. All citations are in the description once again and have been listed on screen as to the relevant specific ones to link on. Politics isn't a team sport. It's people's lives. Personally, my politics have shifted a bunch over the last 10 years. And that's because I have always tried to understand the truth, and I have, at times, still fallen into bias and gotten things wrong. Hundreds of millions of people, single, married, childless, and quiverful, these are economic facts that do not side with the administration, and these are economic issues that I am only addressing because they specifically gloat that it was a strength And it is the only thing.
Chickadee says, I always thought it was Biden. I didn't know that people thought otherwise. I assumed it was. I guess like I thought it was this, that there was like,
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
I thought there was 3 distributions, 2 under Trump in 2020 and 1 under Biden in 2021.
That Republicans repeatedly poll on as handling better than Democrats. And maybe that has been true.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Sassy. Is that, look, I mean, this sounds like it's not what's being claimed here.
Thomas Jur, super chatted $5.91. The slumlord grift. Invest in your own contractors and bankrupt the financiers. Guess who would be the latter?
Guess who would be the... Oh my god, I can't type correctly. How did that happen? I don't know how I did that. Yeah, that's what I remember, Sassy Sasrai. At first said 2K, but then 1,400. Because we got 600 from Trump before then. Trump got his name on one. Trump gave the bigger stimulus checks. Trump signed the first one. That's what I thought. The slumlord grift. Invest in your contractors and bankrupt the financiers. Guess who would be the latter? Who would be the financiers? Trump was against the stimulus, but did put his name on the check. Wait, it was Biden? Well, that's what they're saying. But I thought I remembered, yeah. Here, let's roll it back.
To help the American people in COVID. Many people attribute the stimulus that was granted to Americans under Trump. I personally thought that that's when it happened as well. But the American Rescue Act was a bill passed under Joe Biden, signed into law by Biden's hand. All citations are in the description once again and have been listed on screen as to the relevant specific ones to link on. Politics isn't a team sport. It's people's lives. Personally, my politics have shifted a bunch over the last 10 years. And that's because I have always tried to understand the truth, and I have, at times, still fallen into bias and gotten things wrong. Hundreds of millions of people, single, married, childless, and quiverful, these are economic facts that do not side with the administration, and these are economic issues that I am only addressing because they specifically gloat that it was a strength, and it is the only thing that Republicans repeatedly poll on as handling better than Democrats. And maybe that has been true. All I've looked...
Okay, so we got before that, the CARES Act. Was signed into law by then President Donald Trump in March and December of 2020, respectively. Trump previously expressed support for direct payments of $2,000, along with Joe Biden and many Democrats, even though Trump called for Congress to pass a bill increasing direct payments from $600 to $2,000. Then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked efforts. Additionally, the House voted for the HEROES Act in May 2020, which would operate as the $3 trillion relief package. Despite approval in the lower chambers, the Republican-led Senate would not consider such a bill, citing it dead on arrival. Prior to the Georgia state runoffs, Biden said that direct payments of $2,000 would be passed only if Democratic candidates Ossoff and Raphael Warnock won. The promise of comprehensive COVID relief legislation was reported as a factor in their eventual victories. On January 14th, prior to being inaugurated, President Biden announced a $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So
that is Obama, Biden, and Trump. And out of those three administrations, Trump clearly had the most economic downturn, even if we were to ignore the obvious effects of the COVID crisis under Trump and Biden. It's no one's fault for being misinformed. Most people are busy. They have full-time jobs, school, church, family, and friend obligations. I had to take multiple hours out of my day researching a lot of this stuff just to get the information. The lack of laws restricting malicious actors from spreading false information on social media means it's more rampant than it's ever been. Radio and TV had far more restrictions that prevented this sort of misinformation from being allowed to fester unchallenged. But in a lot of ways, we're still in the Wild West in regards to how much people are allowed to openly lie without consequence. America has free speech, and I am and have always been an defender of the First Amendment. The classic...
What are we looking at here? Percentage of fake news in exposures. So it's just a graph that shows the older your age group is, the more likely you are to see fake news amongst your internet feed. Mean number of shares. What is shares? Facebook users over 65 shared the most links. Oh God. So the over 65 group is getting the most bullshit injected into their feed. And then they're also doing the greatest number of shares. Wow.
Exceptions are in the case of threats, either directly or like the classic example of screaming fire in a crowded theater, but also slander and libel laws. These laws are rarely used because they require, under American law, an undeniable proof that someone not only told mistruths, but did so deliberately, on purpose, and with an intent to harm and misinform repeatedly. In the past, short of hearing someone say and admit to the fact that they did that, it used to be almost impossible to prove in a court of law. But in the age of texting, recorded audio, emails, and more, it's becoming more easy to prove these things through discovery. Fox News settled with Dominion Voting Systems in $810 million after willfully lying about election fraud and interference. In discovery, it was found that lead hosts Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and billionaire chair Rupert Murdoch acted dishonestly. Fox said in a statement to quote, "We acknowledge the court's rulings."
What if the whole video is misinformation? Brian, you know what you need to do? Take a look at these stats, all right? See if you can find them yourself. Or if you find them and they're different than what this video is saying. That sounds like a great project for you.
Finding certain claims about...
Are we defining fake news? No, we weren't actually... Okay, so there are links from what this video said, right? The last one we saw was... But I actually was checking on some of it, right? I was refreshing my memory about the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. These are the COVID relief bills passed under Trump in 2020 and under Biden in 2021. And just kind of, because like some of the stuff that I have forgotten, but yeah, I do see here that the CARES Act that Trump previously expressed support for payments of $2,000 along with Joe Biden and many Democrats, even though Trump called for Congress to pass the bill increasing from $600 to $200. McConnell blocked the effort. But it does seem like that Trump did sign some of the stimulus stuff.
About Dominion to be false. Similar lawsuits towards Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, Mike Lindell, and...
But the thing is, when you're in chat and you're like, what if this shit is not true at all? And you're just kind of sitting on your ass there? I mean, that's not productive. That's not productive. That's you saying, yeah, but like I want to vote for Trump. I'm like emotionally attached to the guy. So let me find whatever rationale I can. Maybe this person is constructing a matrix of fake facts and fake studies and fake everything in order to maybe this is the demiurge. Maybe hiding in private is actually the name of the demiurge's channel on YouTube, and the demiurge's job is to pull the wool over your eyes so you'll not see the glory that is the Son of Man, Donald Trump. Maybe that's it, right? You gotta recognize that he's the second coming because of this evil demiurge that is here trying to hide those that truth from your eyes with all this this matrix. And I mean, like, it is data. It's kind of what the matrix is, like numbers, right? It's, yeah, you could convince yourself of that. But like, really, why cope? Why not just admit that Donald Trump is serving the role to fill the empty place in your soul that should be maybe occupied by a better male family member?
Patrick Byrne and the networks One America News and Newsmax also have cases pending, but are likely to settle or be found guilty, as many are close associates with Fox and close company with many of the people already found guilty. Rival voting company Smartmatic has also now filed suit for fraudulent claims and are pending for the court. In private, it was found through discovery of text messages and emails that hosts such as Tucker Carlson repeatedly called these claims about election fraud insane.
You found a timeline? Can you just give me something to search?
And absurd.
Under Biden, there was a monthly child tax credit.
In private, with Chair Rupert Murdoch even stating in a deposition that he didn't believe the claims and could have easily stopped them from being made, but didn't. Without question, these comments and many others meet criteria for actual malice, a willful disregard to misinform the American people, to betray the sacred duty that is supposed to be the core of news. Lou Dobbs was fired from Fox in 2021 shortly after the Dominion case was filed, with one clip in particular about his rage at an Atlantic article, which reported on Trump calling people who serve at a cemetery suckers and losers. Dobbs called it a hit job, despite information being corroborated by an, at the time, colleague from Fox News, Jennifer Griffin. Privately, Irene Briganti sent 2 clips to Jay Wallace, who was and is the president and executive editor of Fox News Media. He replied to these clips in a private email saying, "Thank you. I watched Lou closely for 2 weeks during conventions. The North Koreans do a more nuanced show." That's what he's saying about the show.
Thomas Jerome Newton says, "That's me. I'm the demiurge. Thank you for the super chat."
Network. That's far from all, though. Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and Tucker Carlson repeatedly acknowledge fault while conspiring against coworkers in private. Remember, this isn't some silly celebrity gossip. These are news anchors caught without excuse willfully lying to the American people for months, mocking the claims in private, and then putting on a serious face to undermine the integrity of American democracy. Sidney Powell, too, overstating the case of election fraud so much that Tucker Carlson privately sends a text to her, sending caution, telling her that if she doesn't prove what she's saying soon, it would be cruel and reckless, despite all of it being fake. When the information seemed to be on the way to being made public, Hannity joked in private with Steve Dawsey, "We might as well tell people to stop watching at 9 a.m. and turn the TV back on tonight."
It's Ducey.
At 9. Tucker Carlson, in another text, said privately, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump on most nights. I truly can't wait. I want nothing more. I hate him passionately. I blew up at Peter Navarro today in frustration.
Any shorts chatters feel that this is fake news? Do you want to challenge this? Maybe Tucker didn't really say this. Tucker wouldn't say that. Tucker's a loyal Trump soldier. Why would Tucker Carlson ever say anything like this? You want to challenge me on that? You want to dispute that? This is exactly what a evil liberal Satanist would tell you. if they wanted you to lose faith in your God Emperor Trump, who's going to totally lead you into a new age of wonderful golden buildings. Donald Trump is going to go up in a UFO and have sex with the aliens and negotiate like a peace deal for us, right? This can't be true. This can't be real, right? Tucker Carlson in January of 2021 chomping at the bit for Trump to fade from relevancy. I imagine things will get nice around mid-February. I hate him passionately. I blew up at Peter Navarro today in frustration. Actually like Peter. Okay, that's the one thing that's sus. Liking Peter Navarro. Right? Do you remember Peter Navarro? This is the guy that got trolled by Anarchy Princess and a bunch of people. Like there was this whole thing where Peter Navarro went to jail, and there were, he was trying to give a press conference where he was like, "This is the Biden administration, curtailing my free speech." And he had like protesters. There was like protesters like protesting him, trying to cope about being sentenced. Strasser Carlson is too upper class. He really is. Of course, he abhors and jumped up nouveau rich cad like Trump. I mean, that's a great way to describe him. That is probably how he appears to Carlson. Although, does Carlson come from old money, or did he just marry into old money? Carlson could be a highly specific type of narcissist. It's possible, but I don't think that matters. Well, I'm just like, this is the kind of thing that I feel like a lot of Trump fans don't deal with. Like, right? I feel like this is the kind of thing that you show this to a Trump person,
But now there are freaking communists invading.
and their head explodes. Right? And the only way that they can cope is to deny what are actually factual. Like, this isn't just factual, chat. This isn't just like confirmed or out there or whatever. This is part of a court case. This is evidence from a court case. The reason we have seen his messages are not because somebody who got in a spat with him shared their DMs with him, right? It's because of discovery in the court case against Fox News. That's the reason that we've seen inside Tucker's texts. And so this is the most confirmed it could possibly be. But I just feel like there's a lot of Trumpies out there that just have not dealt with this, have not made peace with this. That a lot, and look, Tucker Carlson is not the only one who feels like this, right? There's a good portion of the Republican Party that is only on board with Trump because they're afraid of what he and his fans could do to them. They want to keep on sucking off the teat of the Republican Party, and at this point, that means being like, Trump good, Trump very good, no, Trump not bad. You gotta fucking endorse the dude. You gotta kiss the ring, or else you get nowhere. You get Liz Cheney'd. And there's so many people in the Republican Party that probably hate his guts like this. But they're gonna, as long as he's strong, as long as he's solid, they're gonna stick with him, or at least they're gonna pretend to. Lindsey Graham has every reason in the world to hate Trump's guts, and yet he is the biggest glazer of the former president, perhaps of all. And why is that? It's because that's the only way Lindsey Graham keeps his Senate seat.
I like Peter, but I can't take much more of this. This lie was a continuous one from the top down, a willful continuous lie, proved in court of law through discovery of direct messages and emails
Wait, a MAGA communist? What?
from those accused. And while Trump's countless associates were hit...
Thank you, Shakespeare. So proud of you, Irene. You're a wonderful streamer and friend. Thank you for resubbing on Twitch. Oh my God. We're at 231K%? No. I must have typed an extra 3 into here. And where's the K? Where did the K come from? Is somebody hacking me? We're at 27%, which is respectable. Which is respectable and well within striking distance of hitting the dono goal by the end of the stream. Right? We're at 27% thanks to Shakespeare. And I'm pretty sure Shakespeare is going to want that 6% added to what if alt hist.
Trying to push a lie. Trump was also actively working to undermine American democracy, too. In a leaked audio with Georgia election official, once it became clear that he was going to lose the state, this happened.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Was the president here asking you for exactly what he wanted? One more vote than his opponent?
What I knew is that we didn't have any votes to find. We had continued to look. We investigated.
Ooh, he's dodging.
Like I just shared the numbers.
You just got asked a very direct question, sir.
There were no votes to find.
Mr. Secretary, after making this request, the president then goes back to the danger of having you deny these allegations of fraud. Let's listen to that part of the clip.
When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous.
I just want to know the same thing. Is it your understanding that what he's asking for is for you to fudge the election for him? He wanted his own Brooks Brothers riot? Yeah.
I felt then and still believe today that this was a threat. Others obviously thought so too, because some of Trump's more radical followers have responded as if it was their duty to carry out this threat.
My email, my cell phone was doxxed, and so I was getting text all over the country, and then eventually my wife started getting the text, and hers typically came in as sexualized texts, which were disgusting. And then some people broke into my daughter-in-law's home, and my son has passed, and she's a widow, and has 2 kids, and so we're very concerned about her safety also. Because I knew that we had followed the law and we had followed the Constitution, and I think sometimes moments require you to stand up and just take the shots when you're doing your job, and that's all we did.
During the remainder of the call, the former president continued to press you to find the remaining votes that would ensure his victory in Georgia. Let's listen to a little more.
Why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000.
Fellas, please, 11,000 votes. This is somebody that's used to getting his way. This is somebody that's used to manipulating. This is somebody that's used to threatening. This is somebody that's used to conning. This is somebody that's used to the opposite outcome of what happened in 2020.
Votes. Give me a break.
Many emails from electors also showed collusion to provide fake votes, making pithy comments calling them alternative votes, a reference to the Trump campaign line about alternative facts. Still more and more, as a cheated coup appeared not to be working, Trump flagrantly lied on the stage at January 6th about the election, and according to Mark Meadows and 3 other people who were privately confirmed to have been there but chose to speak with anonymity, they stated upon hearing that the protesters had put a noose and gallows up outside and chanted "Hang Pence," that Trump had allegedly expressed support for the idea. Meadows initially provided thousands of text messages in a subpoena to the court, but changed his tune suddenly.
You wrote The Art of the Deal, and all this time it was the art of bitching. Yeah, I always say the art of whining, but you're not wrong.
Suing the court and Verizon to try and keep things privately. The House brought him in contempt of court, but the Republican-controlled Congress dismissed his charges to keep the information private. This is a near-endless litany of information, and I think in large part it's exactly why it's been so easy to twist and ignore the truth. If you want to believe the best in someone, and the evidence against them is so inaccessible and the accusations so unbelievably awful, it becomes very easy to just stop engaging, accept a more comforting answer that it must just really be a witch hunt, and that they're after nothing.
He should be speaking in a James Cagney voice.
Pile that on with the threats to people and their families' lives, and it's genuinely become something scary to talk about on such things publicly. For my part, I'm not in politics. I don't—
Wait, is James Cagney the guy that's like, she here, she, like that guy?
I don't have any cushy job. I don't have any special funding. I think I've provided enough information here. The information is public if you want to learn more. And to my mama and papa, we can obviously just talk about things more in private, as I'm sure we would otherwise. I hope that you've enjoyed the information that I put together in this video as well.
So I get the feeling that part of this video is directed at his parents, who sound like maybe Trumpers?
This was going to be the first half of the video. I was going to dedicate the second half to the ways in which Donald Trump is a precise antithesis.
But now there are freaking communists.
Did I get the right person, though? Is that Cagney, the guy that's like, she? That guy?
For anyone who claims to serve Jesus or be Christian in any way. But I think for most reasonable people who would watch this far, knowing any scripture at all would easily turn—
Oh wow, we got the Jesus angle coming in.
Trump. And knowing as much scripture as you can, repeatedly shove
Jesus versus Trump, that's what—
to support Trump. Instead, I'll just pass with alleged actions in private from Michael Cohen, who also took the fall for Trump's illegal misappropriation of campaign funds years ago. Mr. Cohen said that one day in 2015, he was brought into Trump's office where Trump was brandishing a printout of an article about an Atlanta-based megachurch pastor trying to raise $60 million from his flock to buy a private jet. Trump knew the preacher personally, and later, the man, Creflo Dollar, were among the people to pray over Trump in the famous photo in the Oval Office, as well as one of the evangelicals to meet with him in 2011 when Trump initially was considering running. Trump reportedly seemed delighted to Cohen, calling it an obvious scam and full of shit. They're all hustlers, Trump supposedly said. And this is genuinely just scratching the surface. The fact that Trump is still running and has so much support is really due to the intense disinformation campaigns targeting most people not adept with modern technology and algorithms, or the worse, target—
Okay, so what are we looking at here? We got— I don't even know, actually. Average number of fake news shares. Okay, so shares— oh my god, I don't know what a share means, but shares of fake news. Using the list of domains derived from party identification, that's A. Age group B. Ideological self-placement C. Overall number of Facebook wall post. Okay, so ooh, look at that. Republicans have the highest number of fake shares in this party breakdown. But the second high— or no, sorry, they don't have the high— Independent is actually slightly higher. I mean, this might not— maybe this is not statistically significant, but the two outliers as far as like trading in fake news are Republicans and Independents. We got age group here. So the younger you are, the less likely, or the less of fake news shares you're getting. Oh, now this is funny. Very liberal, slightly higher than liberal. Liberals getting the least. Moderates getting about as much as very liberals. Conservative getting a shit ton more, and very conservative getting a shit ton more than a shit ton more. And then number of Facebook— so this is Facebook, right? Number of wall posts. So how much do you use Facebook? The more you use it, the less fake news. No, actually, no. I mean, other than right here. Oh, this is weird, right? So you make a lot of posts, you get next to no fake news. You make 2,000 to 3,000, a little bit, 1,000 to 2,000 a lot, and 0 to 1,000 slightly less. Interesting. I don't know what to make of that. Okay, so this is just age group. Wait, this is B. Okay, I see. It's this.
And abusing the faith that they have, their most sacred personal beliefs. The farther you fall into a hole, the more you feel the allure of the sunk cost fallacy. The fear that if you admit that you were mistaken, it's an embarrassment. It's too late to bear that sort of guilt. And so people retreat further and further into denial to protect a sense of self-worth. But there's no—
What do you think, chat? Does this YouTuber have the right idea as far as what's keeping people in Trump? That it's a sunken cost fallacy? That they've just invested so much? Wait, are we quoting from Corinthians or from Revelations here? Megastar says, personally, I'm a Revelations believer waiting for the dragon and pit and such. Are you naming the beast? Are we naming the fucking beast in my chat?
nothing more respectable than someone being able to acknowledge fault and change. I'll admit, I felt a lot of satisfaction in 2016 when Trump beat Hillary, because I thought that she had snubbed the party of its rightful candidate. The Democrats were corrupt, and Donald Trump would be a loose cannon, an element of randomness, a wrecking ball to the corrupt corporate elitism. But he ended up being perhaps the most corrupt, spiteful, wicked person to have ever been captured and manipulated the hearts of so many otherwise good people. I wanted this video to focus purely on his performance in office and facts arbitrated by a court of law, to keep things objective for those who might genuinely...
Yeah, Dash, you're not muted. You're talking to us from kind of a hole, right? You're down in a hole, and you're shouting up, and you're saying shit like, y'all are just some deep staters up there, and we're like sitting up here objectively not deep staters, just kind of like wondering about the state of your mind in that hole. And wondering if we have a rope long enough to throw down to you so you can like climb out of that hole, or if there's any way to save you from your sort of, I mean, it's just pure delusion. It's what I'm hearing from you, right? You were under the impression that like not only is Trump winning, but he somehow consolidated like the vast majority of everyone. And it's not that the opposite is true, because it's not, but it's just that he's objectively losing, and, you know, it's close. In reality, here in reality, right? Down in your hole, I don't know what you're hearing, what you're getting, what you're wish casting, or whatever, but we do hear you loud and clear. We do hear you loud and clear. You are not muted.
Believe that the economy and immigration would be better under him. I didn't even get into the rape conviction or the felony accounts. Threats from the Heritage Foundation, who in the last 10 years have also slowly become co-opted by the MAGA movement, pieced together Project...
Wait, slowly? Okay, see, though, if there's any problem with this YouTuber, it's that they're a little bit centrist-pilled, right? Slow, like, really, you think that Heritage Foundation was like, yeah, they were like, okay, you know? Look, there's some arguments that people will make with the Heritage Foundation, given the fact that the Obama administration, actually the version of Obamacare that ended up passing was a Heritage plan, Heritage Foundation plan for, I believe, Massachusetts, like enacted under Romney. So the joke is to call it Romney Care. So you can make some jokes. So like, yeah, you really think that the Heritage Foundation is so radical? Actually, I think this was Anna Kasparian's take on it. Her way of caping for Project 2025 and gaslighting you into thinking there's nothing to make you think that it has anything to do with Trump. This is left-wing disinformation. All right, we're almost done with this one, chat.
And organized by Trump staffers and donors. past and present. The leader of the foundation at the time said,
"We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be."
And this is still scratching the surface.
Yep, good people.
The fact during discovery of Ghislaine Maxwell's case...
But his understanding is that the Heritage Foundation used to be kind of normal, and that Trump has corrupted them.
Of the United States versus Ghislaine Maxwell. This is the partner of Epstein.
You know what? I started off, like, as much as I want to make fun of the pronunciation, I started off calling her Ghislaine. Like, it's Ghislaine is how it's actually pronounced, right?
We got records for flight logs that Epstein had 14 different saved phone numbers tied to Donald Trump, that Trump gave settled cases of accused assault. The fact that before justice could even be served in his court cases, the Supreme Court then ruled immunity on everything that he and any future president may do, upending literally the precedent that dates back to the founding of the United States, that violates the fundamental idea of checks and balances, and that we shouldn't have a king. And this blatant disgrace and treason to our democracy was just so that in case he gets elected, before he can be convicted, then he can escape any prosecution under the law. It's a genuinely...
To be fair, though, this has been a project of the Republican Party for a long time. And no doubt the... oh my god, why can't I think of their name? The Legal Foundation. It's like Federalist Society. Yeah. No doubt the Federalist Society as well, right? This is something they wanted, going back to Nixon or maybe even before.
Harrowing situation, and as already shown, many of the people pushing this for money are selling the American dream out willingly to good American patriots, knowingly lying about
good American patriots
it in private messages.
I hate that you've been so corrupted, you good American patriots in my shorts chat. You good American patriots. You just want to do the right thing and follow the word of Jesus Christ, the Lord of all things. And you're getting hoodwinked by this Trumpian weirdo, right? But it's not because you're bad people. You're good American patriots, aren't you?
Mocking the people who they are fooling.
Skywalker OG sounds great, Shane McInnes.
Please protect yourself. Protect our democracy. E pluribus unum.
Which means, eagle eats stars. That's what that means in Latin. See, E for eagle, pluribus eats, unum stars, definitely. That's how that works.
If you're not my grandparents and you have made it this far, please consider supporting my work on Patreon, Ko-fi, or directly on PayPal. My income is derived entirely from fan help and ad revenue on my channels.
Yeah, the sad thing about the whole deep state discourse, right, is that right-wingers have turned something that is actually real and is actually worrisome, which we're talking about the culture. We're talking about the culture of federal law enforcement, intelligence agencies, the State Department, etc., etc., etc. And there is something kind of foul in that culture. These are a lot of people that are, either in bed with the military industrial complex or have actually, that's part of their resume. And we don't, and yet now when you say deep state, you're thinking of some weird Agent Smith of Pizzagate. You know what I mean? Like, it's become so distorted. And you're tempted to be like, no, the deep state doesn't exist. And it's like, well, no, actually it does. It does. But the thing that that Trumpies are talking about, when they say deep state, oh my God.
Normally talk about media I like, infusing some...
You might as well say the Jabberwocky, okay?
...politics into my analysis, but have never been this political, and it's not really my preferred thing. It's very depressing. I considered and will probably consider more as I work on this if I should have even made this video, or should have left out the parts that state very specific things, as people's...
Maybe a little late for that.
As you heard from the family of the Georgia electorate who refused to deny democracy its truth, whose safety and privacy was erased, who sustained threats of violence and rape and were victims of property crime. The vitriol to which dozens of previous Trump attorneys, friends, staff, and more have been endlessly harassed.
The managerial class? Are you talking about the professional managerial class, ASAP? I mean, that's a thing too.
For speaking against Trump, normally only doing so once their back was against the wall and they weren't willing to serve a sentence of crimes that Trump ordered them to do while he got off scot-free. This script started as a lighthearted look at the facts of policy, but now it's kind of freaky and dark. And I don't want to risk my own safety by speaking too much on these topics. So even if you don't care about American democracy, you don't care about the Constitution, you don't care about what it means to be American or the American dream, you don't care about the blatant heresy and blasphemy of Christian faith that has been co-opted by Trump's disingenuous administration.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's coming to an end. It's coming to an end and taking its time about that. All right, let's take a look, see what this is.
Very much.
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Oh, wait, we're too quiet, aren't we?
We had some time together backstage, and you know, I think that in moments of crisis, such as the fentanyl crisis, there are people who, through their suffering and their pain, rise with courage in such a selfless way to be a voice for others with the anticipation and the hope and the hard work of hoping that their story will be the reason other people don't have that story. And you sharing your story about Jacob and your advocacy on why we have to stop this scourge is so incredibly important. And again, I applaud Teresa, and I know we all do.
I don't know, although I get the feeling that there's some in chat who would rather not have me cover... I mean, you know what we're going to hear from this, right?
And
like, what she and Biden have been doing as far as the issue of immigration goes for the last, I don't know how long, has been absolutely caving to Trump, so...
Our need to stop this issue is one of the reasons that we are all here together today. I also want to thank the extraordinary elected officials who are here. Senator Mark Kelly came with me. He and his extraordinary wife, Gabby Giffords, traveled with me from Washington, D.C. to be here, and Senator Kelly has been talking with me for quite some time about the importance of this visit. And so I thank you in front of all of our friends for your work. Thank you.
Wait, what just happened? Did they go down? Breezy says this guy definitely sounds like he needs to educate himself more. You're probably right.
Before I begin, I do want to say a few words about Hurricane Helene. I spoke this morning with our FEMA administrator, Chris Well, and President Biden and I, of course, will continue to monitor the situation closely. We have mobilized more than 1,500 federal personnel to support those communities that have been impacted. We have food, water, and generators that are ready for deployment. And we are working to restore power for millions of people who currently are experiencing outages. And I just want to stress, and for the press that is here, to those who are watching, the storm continues to be dangerous and deadly, and lives have been lost, and the risk of flooding.
So I don't know if we'll have time to cover this or not, but DeSantis is asking Biden for relief that apparently... Is it that he turned it down earlier, or is it there's something about like his own like legislation that is actually hampering the effort? Yeah, DeSantis is kind of having to eat shit right now. And it's not the first time, considering how much he likes that pudding.
Remains high, so I continue to urge everyone to please continue to follow guidance from your local officials until we get past this moment. So thank you all, and now I'll speak about, in particular, the people who are here today and why we are gathered here together today. So Arizona, I think you all know.
We are gathered here today to be like, immigrants bad, so that all the chuds in chat can be happy. They can blame all their fucking problems on an immigrant, and Kamala Harris isn't gonna disagree with you about that, right? She's just like, oh yeah, this is part of, this is, we're just gonna cave to Trump on this. It's gonna be all right.
Are here.
We're gonna feed into a fucking moral panic to the point where we're actually reinforcing ideas that are objectively not true. The idea that immigrants bring crime, when in actuality the crime rates of undocumented people are lower than those of citizens. We're gonna reinforce the idea that immigrants are taking something away from American citizens when they're actually contributing to the economy. We're going to reinforce the idea that the problem is that we do not have a hermetic seal across thousands of miles of border. Not that we lack a pathway to fucking citizenship.
Consequential issue.
Gone is any consideration of DACA. Gone is any kind of
issues at stake in this election.
Human sentiment regarding what we're talking about, which for the most part is asylum, which is a human right, and even more so in a situation when the destabilization of the countries from which people are seeking asylum is disproportionately due to the foreign policy of the United States itself. But no, let's go ahead and cave.
The United States is a sovereign nation, and I believe we have a duty to set rules at our border and to enforce them. And I take that responsibility very seriously. We are also a nation of immigrants. The United States has been enriched by generations of people who have come from every corner of the world to contribute to our country and to become part of the American story. And so we must reform our immigration system to ensure that it works in an orderly way, that it is humane, and that it makes our country stronger. So I've just come from visiting the border and the port of entry in Douglas. I spoke with dedicated agents from Border Patrol and Customs officers who every day see the overflow of commercial traffic through the port. These men and women who work there and at other places along our southern border help keep our nation secure. And they need more resources to do their jobs, which is why we have and are in the process of investing $500 million to modernize and expand the port of entry here in Douglas.
I mean, you can imagine how that's going to be. The other thing about it is that any political advantage to caving to Trump is illusory. That is to say, it's not real. It's a pipe dream. If people are voting on who's going to keep those damn immigrants out, they're going to vote for Trump, right? If that's their motivating factor, that's what they're thinking about, right? If they've got that, like, she is never going to recapture any fucking votes by emulating Trump's policy, which is exactly what Biden did. And from what I've seen, she's gone along with it. Now, there is like a kind of some lip service being paid to the idea of, we are a country of immigrants, but it feels like too little too late. Gnarl by Nature, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Mozart, Lesbot, Grand Theft Autobot, Tommy Boyo, and Jerry McLean. You just got weaseled. And that's a good thing.
And why last December I helped raise the rate of overtime pay for border agents, and also why I strongly supported the comprehensive
We're up to 44%. What default hits? Gotcha.
written last year, as you know, by a bipartisan group of senators, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Congress. That bill would have hired 1,500 more border agents and officers. It would have paid for 100 inspection machines to detect fentanyl that is killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. It would have allowed us to more quickly and effectively remove those who come here illegally, and it would have increased the number of immigration judges and asylum officers. It was the strongest border security bill we have seen in decades. It was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, and it should be in effect today, producing results in real time right now for our country. But Donald Trump tanked it. He picked up the phone and called some friends in Congress and said, stop the bill. Because you see, he prefers to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Okay, so look, she's right about that. He's an absolute hypocrite and a scumbag, right? He claims that immigration is the worst thing. It's causing all the problems of the world. But when Biden caves to him, his orders to the Republicans are like, flip on that bill. You know that bill that you were trying to pass when you thought Biden was going to veto it? When you thought maybe it wouldn't make it past the Senate? Vote against it now. Because I don't want that bill passing. If that bill passes and Biden signs it, it's gonna be harder for me to win the election. So it shows you right there the Republicans are not about policy. They are about power. But it also shows you that the Democrats are willing to cave on anyone and everyone, and whatever marginalized group that you come from, if they haven't thrown you under the bus yet, it is only a matter of time. So yeah, in another way, it is less about policy and more about power for them too. This is just the dysfunction of our political system on full display. Like this weird, gross situation where the Democrats cave to something they never should cave to, and the Republicans refuse to take the W.
And the American people deserve a president who cares more about border security than playing political games and their personal political future. And so even though Donald Trump tried to sabotage the border security bill, it is my pledge to you that as President of the United States, I will bring it back up and proudly sign it into law. And let me say, the issue of border security is not a new issue to me. I was Attorney General of a border state for 2 terms. I saw the violence and chaos that transnational criminal organizations cause, and the heartbreak and loss from the spread of their illicit drugs. I walked through tunnels that traffickers used to smuggle contraband into the United States. I've seen tunnels with walls as smooth as the walls of your living room, complete with lighting and air conditioning, making very clear that it is about
that sounds like housing that should be on the market. Come on.
an enterprise that is making a whole lot of
I wouldn't mind live in an underground dwelling if it was like super posh.
money in the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Is she talking about the back rooms? I believe she's talking about the back rooms.
And my knowledge on how they work comes from the fact that I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. My team and I broke up a heroin trafficking ring in the Bay Area with ties to Mexican cartels. We took down a gang working with the Sinaloa cartel to traffic methamphetamine into the United States. We seized millions of dollars worth of cocaine from the Guadalajara cartel and broke up a drug trafficking operation, including pill mills and so-called recovery centers that were pushing opioids with deadly results. As Attorney General of California, it was 10 years ago that I brought a bipartisan group of American attorneys general and led that group to travel to Mexico City to meet with Mexican attorneys general to address this issue, and in particular, to increase intelligence sharing on gang activity, all of which allowed us to prosecute more human traffickers. And I started, as Attorney General, the first comprehensive report in the state of California analyzing transnational criminal organizations and the threats they pose to public safety and to the economy. So stopping transnational criminal organizations and strengthening our border is not new to me, and it is a long-standing priority of mine.
Anyway,
And I will continue to.
I think you get the point. I think you get the point. Let's move on to Netanyahu's speech at the UN.
Fighting for its life, but after the lies and slanders leveled at Israel, I decided to come and set the record straight. He said, my country is at war fighting for its life, but after the lies and slanders leveled at Israel, I decided to come and set the record straight. What stood out in what was a pretty comprehensive speech from the Israeli Prime Minister to you?
Well, clearly the defiance stood out.
The defiance, yeah.
Really, singling out Iran and painting this picture of either blessings or something far worse, a curse, and holding up those maps. In many ways, this was sort of vintage Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is where he actually feels comfortable, where he is speaking to an audience, where he feels that he is a master orator, and he was delivering clearly his version and his belief. But it's not the first time we've heard him single out Iran. I think any of us that were looking to try to see if there was a nuance in there about this potential ceasefire with between Israel and Hezbollah on the northern border, I think his continued references to America and France about how Hezbollah and Iran as well had been responsible for killing your citizens was kind of getting specific on this was your initiative, but examine this, why don't you? I mean, look, the big takeaway here has to be this is a prime minister who's not climbing down from anything he's said, who doubled down on everything that is said so far, the demand for the hostages back, his position, his view, and the takeaway has to be at the moment, in this moment of escalating tensions across the northern border, is there was nothing in
we're
those escalating tensions
consolidating chats
tamped down in any way in the short term, Becky.
And let me bring in Ben Wiedemann, who is in Tyre in Lebanon. On Hezbollah, Benjamin Netanyahu said, and I quote, "Enough is enough. We won't rest until our citizens..."
We're going to merge the shorts stream into the regular stream. You're welcome to come along with us. I got the link there in chat, as well as in the pinned. And it'll probably also maybe raid you. So get in there. And I'll see you on the other side. And like on the way out. Yeah, good idea, Narwhal. Good idea. Right.